Greetings, DMs, GMs, and players. This is the Insomniac GM. Last time we spoke about game systems. This time we're going to talk about settings. So for this example, I'm using 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to explain settings. So a setting is where your campaign is located, like a world. So it may change the way your game is, but relatively the mechanics are going to be the same for the most part. So I have selected all 5th edition settings. The first one I chose is probably one of my favorite Dungeons and Dragons settings. It's either this or Dark Sun, but the first one's Eberron. Now, normal Dungeons and Dragons is set in the Forgotten Realms, at least for 5th edition. Forgotten Realms is, for the most part, I don't want to say high magic, but compared to like Greyhawk and that, you're essentially kind of playing like fantasy superheroes in a way. Like, your characters are a lot more powerful than settings like Greyhawk, which is more like Game of Thrones. Now, Eberron, on the other hand, is high magic compared to Forgotten Realms. So Eberron is kind of like a steampunk setting where they use magic as a resource. You could buy like a washing machine, essentially, that casts magic to clean your clothes. They have living constructs that go to war and have a soul, and they have flying ships, and etc., etc. So that's one type of setting. Another setting they have is Mythic Odyssey of Theros, which is a Magic the Gathering setting, and it takes a lot of inspiration from Greek mythology. So you see the gods interacting a lot more with the worlds. You can see the gods. There's a lot of Greek mythology creatures in it. You have minotaurs, you have satyrs, centaurs, you have harpies. I mean, yeah, those are all in D&D as it is, but there's more of a focus on it. Now, you see how vastly different these two are personally. So that's kind of how system settings are. They're like a different flavor to like a snack, you know? So, but yeah, there are multiple other 5th edition settings. I didn't want to just keep grabbing first party ones actually made by Wizards of the Coast, because I just wanted to make this video to be a lot shorter and quicker than usual. So another one you can get is you have your first party settings that are actually made by the people who made Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Well, then you got third party. So third party is anyone who doesn't make that game system, like they're not on the official team, they can make it. So you could write your own setting, your own world, publish it, and sell it. And that's what these people did. So Grimhollow is a more horror-based. It's a lot. I'm trying not to compare it to Ravenloft, but it is a horror setting where the characters can get stronger and they mutate into these monsters. You could make a deal with a vampire, and the vampire makes you stronger, but you become a monster in that. And that's like the big draw with Grimhollow. Now, so you got your first party settings, and you got your third party settings. there are so many third-party settings. Now, one setting you'll hear a lot for you new players is homebrew. Now, homebrew settings are essentially your dungeon master or your game master or whatever doesn't use any of these books for their actual setting. They create their world themselves. I actually do this myself. So it may change the world up a bit. To give you ideas with my setting, I essentially have my world is divided up into two different sides of the world. There's the east and there's the west. So on the east side, you have the Fate Islands, which it's a whole bunch of little tiny islands that are all scattered out, and you can travel between them. And those also have a lot of world building, but I don't focus my games too much on them just because of how much smaller of an area it is, but it's for more variation. And then on my west side of the world, I have another continent. I don't have my notes, and I run games there so much, but I always forget the name of it. But essentially the world is divided up into 3 different kingdoms. Now, depending on what kingdom you're from, depends on what races you can play, or like I'm about to run my Pathfinder first edition game, and my players can choose what race they want to be from the list I have. So if they want to play dwarves, they can. If they play elves, they can. But they're strictly limited to their knowledge of whatever region they're from. So the elves only really have knowledge of the Elven Kingdom. Meanwhile, you got races like humans and Dragonborn that have knowledge of like all 3 kingdoms or all 3 regions. But it all depends on what setting you want to play in, what setting your GM is running. But yeah, a lot of different game systems have settings. Another one I can throw out to you that I wish I had the books to kind of explain to you too, but Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu has settings set in the 1920s, modern day, sci-fi, futuristic, Nordic times, etc. There's so many possibilities on settings, and it differs. Another thing too with settings is depending on what setting you're playing, or depending on what system you're playing may also depend on what setting. Like Eberron here is only in 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition D&D. Meanwhile, Mythic Odyssey of Theros is only 5th edition. While you have stuff like Greyhawk that's only 1st and 2nd. I don't think 3rd. But yeah, it all depends. Quick video. I just wanted to make this one a lot shorter. But tell me in the comments below if you've ever played in a setting, what your favorite setting is. Yeah, until next time.